part of your healing process, which was, in the whole discussion we're having here, your story, your telling of your life story here is, the common theme is you're trying to fill the holes. You're trying to fill the abyss with all these different things, different people, different alcohols, whatever. But you were telling me that the book and writing the book is actually what helped you fulfill that hole, that need, that abyss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you dive into more about the book and how writing it actually helped you?
Yeah. When I was going through it, I journaled a lot. I journaled to help me process things. And then I was ashamed of it and I threw it in the dumpster.
No.
Yes. Yes. So, but even at that time, I wasn't ready to face everything, Mm-hmm. And it took a lot of healing. Like I got a lot of coaching. I worked with a trauma coach. And through all of that, well, the one common theme was everyone says, well, you should journal about that. You should journal about that. And then I ended up hooking up with this other coach who also produces books, right? She's a book publisher. And she was hosting a book writing challenge. I was like, oh. And I really felt that God said to me, now is the time to write your book. Because honestly, I had tried to write it before. Because, well, he had spoken to me about like 10 years before that this is a story that people need to hear. You need to write it. But I was struggling because I was still processing, and I hadn't completely healed. And when it finally came to this book writing challenge, I was like, okay, now is the time. Even though in the natural, I was like, this is not the time. Like, I am so swamped because yes, I love, like the psychology piece, right? I was a mental health specialist in the Army. So I love all of that stuff, and like dealing with PTSD and just helping people recover from that and understanding how people are. So I actually got turned on to psychology in high school. I had to take a psychology class as one of my, requirements. And I was like, wow, this is cool, And, when my teacher was like saying that this could be a career and you could get paid to talk to people, I was like, wow, I'm really good at talking to people. Because even in high school, people used to come up to me and like they want to share what's on their heart. It's really weird. Even as I started my life coaching business, where I got my certification, I started my life coaching business, and I was going to like, random conferences, meetings and stuff, like growing my business acumen. I would meet people at these business conferences and they would tell me their whole life story in like an hour of meeting them.
Nice.
It's so crazy. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that was a thing until, like talking, like people share like their deepest, darkest secrets with me. I'm not kidding. And like, wow, okay. But like, as they're telling me these things, I just nod my head. And they're like, oh, you're gonna judge me. And I'm like, no. And I said, you want to hear my story?
Yeah, I was just kind of getting to that. I was like, oh, well, it sounds, just from today's conversation, it sounds like, well, you share so much of yourself that you make it comfortable and natural for other people to share naturally with you.
Right.
And openly.
And so that's when I realized, okay, there's more to this life coaching thing than I anticipated, right? I just love neuroscience and I loved all of those things. And so I started studying that and like, hey, it's going to help me with my coaching, and my business. But the more that I dived into it, I started realizing that, and with stuff that happened with my son and the trauma that he experienced, trauma that I've experienced, I was like, huh. Mm-hmm. And even in the business side, like I had some business coaching clients. So I had like the life coaching leg, and then I had the business strategy happening, because people would come up to me and like, oh, how did you do that for your business? Because I was a coach and I was running my own business. Mm-hmm, like, how did you do that? I'm like, oh, it's so easy. It's like this. You get da-da-da-da-da-da. And they're like, no. And then it ended up...
It's not that easy.
And then it ended up like, can you just do it for me?
Ugh.
And
was that good for you or no?
Yeah. So, right, in the 19 years of oil and gas, I was used to being that go-to person, right? That industry is, I would say, 98% male.
Yeah.
And so being a female and having high, administrative skills, I'm like, yeah, whatever, just give it to me. I'll figure it out. And like anything that we would learn. So my auntie knows one of my coworkers, and she said that when she talked to him, like, oh yeah, like anytime we go to class, she's the one who takes all the notes and we ask her when we're done.